That summer, when I was 18, Chloe and I finally crossed that line. Afterward, I was too excited to sleep a wink, believing my 6-year-long secret crush had finally come true. Until the next day, I overheard her friends teasing her. "Wow, Chloe, you totally snagged the hottest guy in class." I felt a flush of embarrassment, about to slip away unnoticed. Then Chloe's nonchalant reply drifted over. "I want to go after Jaxon, the ice hockey star from school. I'm just worried he'll think I'm too inexperienced. So, I just used Liam to practice my moves." I didn't say a word. In the last possible moment, I quietly switched my university application from Washington, D.C. to Chicago. Chloe's words hit me like a sudden, brutal lightning strike from a clear sky. My mind instantly went blank. In that sweltering summer afternoon, I felt an icy coldness spread through my body. The conversation in the classroom continued, though they seemed to pause for a beat before someone spoke again. Only Chloe would say that. "The hottest guy in class is just practice for her." Chloe chuckled, unconcerned. "Don't be silly. He's not exactly losing out, is he?" Someone immediately chimed in. True. Liam is pretty lean compared to Jaxon. Well, his build just isn't the same." Chloe, annoyed, playfully tossed a book at him, cutting off his comment. It was just a heat-of-the-moment thing, the vibe was there, and honestly he looked like he was about to burst. They all exchanged knowing glances, teasing her. "So Liam's the quiet type on the outside, a total wild card underneath. Oh wow, Chloe, your charm is just too much. Of course, you take the opportunity when it's handed to you. Liam's been after you for years, he finally got what he wanted. He's probably completely obsessed with you now." The laughter in the room clearly intensified. My hands clenched into tight fists. It took every ounce of my strength to stay upright, to keep from collapsing at the classroom door. Footsteps approached from the end of the corridor. I snapped back to reality, bolting from the scene. In a panic, I rushed into a bathroom stall. Chloe's words echoed in my mind, syllable by syllable. They utterly shredded every last piece of my self-respect. If I hadn't heard it with my own ears, I would never have believed that the person who'd been so intimately entwined with me, who'd seemed to lose herself completely in my arms just last night, was the same person. So you could do something that intimate, even without love. You could lie and deceive, even in the most passionate, irrational moments. What I'd foolishly believed was our destiny, was nothing more than a punchline in their conversations. The more I thought about it, the more miserable I became. A long while later, my phone buzzed with a new message. It was Chloe. "Just cab it home. My friends are having a party tonight, and it's not really convenient for you to come." I didn't reply. I stared at the message, silent for a long time. From dusk till dawn yesterday, Chloe and I had been all over each other, again and again. Finally, we were both exhausted. Before I fell asleep in her arms, she was still whispering softly to me. It was our first time, and we weren't fully prepared. "You really went all out tonight." Back then, I thought she genuinely cared about me, that I had finally found my happiness. And now, in an instant, I sobered up considerably. I dug my nails into my palms, took a deep breath, and walked out of the bathroom. When I got home, I felt like all my strength had drained away. Ever since Chloe's family moved in next door, I'd trailed after her like a puppy, for 10 whole years. I'd never imagined what a world without her would be like. And I certainly didn't dare to. But from now on, I was on my own. Outside my floor-to-ceiling window, lights came on one by one, then faded out. I don't know how much time passed before my buddy, Ryan, video called me. "Liam, how come you didn't come to our party with Chloe tonight? Jaxon from the next class is here, and with you gone, he's practically glued to her side. They're making everyone sick." Ryan flipped his camera. In a dimly lit corner of the lounge, Chloe and Jaxon, the ice hockey star, sat close together. Jaxon wore a simple black t-shirt, accentuating his broad shoulders, making him look effortlessly cool and totally eye-catching. They'd clearly carved out their own space, separate from the others. Even when they talked, it was like they were whispering conspiratorially, sharing private secrets. Even through the phone, I could feel a thick, undeniable tension between them. My chest tightened. A suffocating gasp caught in my throat. Chloe just said she wanted to go after him this afternoon. And it looks like she already sealed the deal tonight. During a round of truth or dare, Jaxon got a prompt to do push-ups over a female guest. As expected, Chloe immediately stepped forward. The crowd immediately went wild. Chloe's cheeks flushed crimson as she demurely lay back on the couch. Jaxon hovered above her, doing dozens of push-ups in one go. He was incredibly careful, his body barely hovering over hers, trying his best not to touch her. Until the very last one. Whether he genuinely lost his strength or it was a calculated move, I couldn't tell. He failed to hold himself up and collapsed directly onto Chloe. The room erupted in deafening cheers, loud enough to blow the roof off. Chloe and Jaxon's faces flushed an even deeper red. Amidst the crazy uproar, Chloe, with a mischievous glint in her eyes, simply tilted her head back and locked lips with Jaxon. They completely lost themselves in the moment, sharing a deep, passionate kiss as if no one else existed. It lasted a full 3 minutes before they reluctantly pulled apart. For those agonizing 3 minutes, I stared unblinking at the screen. So numb I almost forgot to breathe. My heart felt like it was being ripped apart, a searing pain. I wanted to cry so badly, but I'd cried too much that afternoon and had no tears left. They were totally making out. Liam, did you see that? She's completely into him. Ryan sighed, then turned the camera away and stepped out of the lounge. He found a quiet corner and seriously tried to reason with me. Liam, don't be mad at me. If I hadn't let you see it with your own eyes, you'd never give up on her. My throat was dry and hoarse. The words that came out were rough and indistinct. No, I don't blame you. It's all on me for being such a fool for all these years. I always thought that because I was allowed to be by Chloe's side, that spot was automatically mine. I just couldn't stand Chloe. How could she, knowing you'd liked her for years, still play this innocent game, stringing you along, watching you fall deeper and deeper? You saw it for yourself just now. I really hope you think hard about this. Don't let her waste another 4 years of your life in college. I won't, Ryan. I cut him off, stating calmly, I won't give myself another chance. Ryan, I've decided. I'm going to university in Chicago with you. But you have to promise to keep it a secret for now. After saying that, to stop myself from wavering, I opened my laptop right in front of him. Without a second thought, I pulled up my application portal and just before the early decision deadline, changed my top choice to that renowned university in Chicago. Ryan was naturally over the moon. He'd been begging me to apply to the same university for ages. But when we first entered high school, Chloe and I had made a pact. We'd work hard together after our SATs and head hand in hand to her dream school in Washington, D.C., where she'd always wanted to study her favorite major. So, even though I didn't particularly love Washington, D.C., or feel any connection to that specific STEM-focused university, for 3 years of high school, I kept it as my goal. After years of being neighbors, both our parents were happy for us to apply to the same university. Everyone, myself included, thought Chloe and I would naturally become a couple once we were adults. But now, I couldn't find a single reason to go to Washington, D.C. Or rather, after today, if I continued to cling to Chloe like before, I'd never be able to look myself in the mirror again. I just wanted to get as far away as possible. Anywhere was fine, as long as Chloe wasn't there. If she was in Washington, D.C., then I'd go to Chicago. Before bed, I turned on the shower, desperate to wash away the lingering stickiness of it all. But as I peeled off my clothes, the marks on my skin were still painfully obvious. Memories from last night surged back, uncontrollable. The burning heat of her skin as we clung together. The scorching breaths against my ear in the throes of passion. The warmth seemed to still linger in the air. I shook my head hard, trying to dislodge those absurd images. Then I found the roughest loofah I could find and scrubbed my skin repeatedly, until my whole body was raw and red, before finally stopping. I was clumsily trying to erase what felt like the most humiliating memory of my life. The result was so much pain that I couldn't sleep well all night. Chloe, as expected, didn't send any more messages, breaking the 6-year unbroken streak of goodnight texts we'd shared since we first got phones. This was probably for the best. It was bound to happen eventually. It's time to go cold turkey starting tonight. I drifted in and out of sleep, finally drifting off just before dawn. I was still in a deep sleep the next morning when I suddenly felt someone press a soft kiss to my forehead in my dream. I jolted awake. Opening my eyes, I saw her familiar chin. The scent that enveloped me was her favorite cedarwood, along with a faint, unfamiliar hint of lemon. I'd almost forgotten. Chloe always knew my front door code. Seeing me awake, Chloe simply lowered her head, a playful smile on her face, trying to steal a kiss. I turned my head, dodging her. I pushed her away and scrambled to the other side of the bed. Chloe paused, then chuckled. What, still playing hard to get? I didn't say anything, just pulled the duvet up, burying my head. Chloe started teasing me as she pulled back the covers. Liam, you're getting bold, aren't you? Didn't even say goodnight last night, and even turned off your phone before bed. Now you're hiding from me? She swiftly slipped under the covers with me. I didn't have time to react before she wrapped her arms around me. How many times have I told you not to skip breakfast? I even went for a half-hour run just to get you these. Your favorite gourmet muffins. I stood in line for ages. Do you want to get up and eat now, or do you want to be eaten first? Her breath was so close, and her hand started to trace patterns on my skin. Shaking off my grogginess, I started to struggle. I honestly couldn't understand what she was thinking. She already had Jaxon. Why was she still messing with me? What's with the mood? Still sulking? Is it really just because I didn't bring you to the party last night? I stayed silent. She buried her face in my neck and laughed. Let me guess, did your good friend Ryan rat me out? It was just a party game. Are you seriously getting jealous over that? It's always the same with you. The moment I even look at another guy, you turn into a moody silent type. I was seething, utterly speechless. I blindly jabbed my elbow backward, catching her sharply just below the ribs. While she winced in pain and curled up, I scrambled out of bed. Liam. She clutched her side, her face flushed, beads of sweat on her forehead. I quickly pulled on the first t-shirt I found over my sweats and hurried to the living room. I didn't want to be in the same room as her, especially not my bedroom. A short while later, Chloe walked out, looking both annoyed and exasperated. Chloe walked to the dining table, picked up a coffee and offered it to me. Here, have something to eat first, then be angry. Your stomach's always been sensitive. I didn't say anything, didn't reach for it. Chloe's hand, holding the coffee, hung in the air for a long time before she finally lost patience. What is it, Liam? Sulking needs a reason, and a limit, you know? I replied coldly. I'm not good enough. Chloe's anger flared. She slammed the coffee cup down on the end table. She used too much force. The cheap paper cup tore, and coffee instantly seeped into the plush carpet. What do you mean? Who do you think you are, Liam? We hooked up once consensually, and now you think you own me? You want to control me? Do you have any idea how much pressure that puts on me? Her tone was harsher than I'd ever heard it. In an instant, I abruptly turned my head, my jaw clenched so hard I thought it would crack. Yesterday's humiliation and today's awkwardness surged over me, choking my throat, leaving me speechless. Chloe clearly hadn't anticipated my reaction. She froze for a moment, then softened her tone. I'm sorry, I drank too much last night. I was a little impulsive just now. She knelt down, trying to get closer, but I dodged her again. She froze, her hands suspended in midair. Just as she was about to continue coaxing me, her phone suddenly pinged. She glanced at her phone, her face suddenly paling, and abruptly stood up to leave. I have something urgent to do. You just cool down. And stop being so dramatic all the time. Can you just grow up? Less than half an hour after she left, Ryan sent me a screenshot. Jaxon's Snapchat story. A simple I'm hungry, and boom breakfast. Feeling like there's definitely a mutual crush brewing here. The picture showed the exact same gourmet muffins, in identical packaging, as the ones on my kitchen counter. I didn't reply. I just quietly knelt down, carefully cleaning the coffee Chloe had spilled. I tried for a long time, but with a heavy heart, I realized the stain on the plush wool rug had seeped deep, impossible to scrub out. In a sudden burst of anger, I decided to just throw the entire rug away. Anyway, Chloe and her parents had spent an entire afternoon picking this out for me during their trip to Morocco, even lugging it back by hand. While I was at it, I gathered up all of Chloe's things left at my place, and all the gifts she'd ever given me, big and small. Even all the photos of us together. I spent the whole day sorting and packing them all up. Then I threw everything away. I figured she wouldn't want these old scraps anyway. After Chloe left that day, there was no news from her for several days. I guess things with the ice hockey star were progressing smoothly. Or maybe she was waiting for me to give in. In every past Cold War, I was always the first to back down, without exception. But this time, I didn't look for her. There was no need to anymore. I blocked her on Snapchat and her phone number, changed my front door code, and deleted all my social media accounts. After doing all that, I called my parents, who were away on a business trip, to discuss my plans. I told them I wanted to spend the summer in Mexico with Aunt Sarah. My plan was that after summer, I would go straight to university registration in Chicago with Ryan. Aside from Ryan, no one else knew I had applied to a school in Chicago. This plan should perfectly avoid any chance encounters with Chloe. My mom teased me on the phone. Oh, so you and Chloe are going on vacation together? I made up an excuse, not wanting to explain too much. I just told her I wanted to spend time with Aunt Sarah and Grandma Rose. I begged my dad to book me the earliest flight, planning to fly out that very night. As I was leaving the house, I unluckily ran into Mrs. Thompson at the gate of my villa. She warmly greeted me, pulling me into a quick chat. Liam, why are you alone? Chloe isn't here to pick you up? Didn't she say she was taking you skiing in New Zealand? Have a great time, sweetie. I'm all for it. I found it a bit strange. During senior year, when we were studying for our college entrance exams, I had indeed mentioned to Chloe that I wanted to go skiing in New Zealand, to experience winter in the southern hemisphere. But given how things were between us now, I couldn't imagine us traveling together. However, time was running short, so I just mumbled a few vague replies and left. But what I didn't expect was to run into Chloe at the airport. She was with a group of friends. Jaxon was there too. Jaxon, ever the gentleman, carried a designer handbag in one hand, his other arm casually draped around Chloe. They walked at the back of the group. Every now and then, Jaxon would turn his head to say something to her, and Chloe would patiently tilt her head up to listen. Unlike us, I'd always towered over Chloe, even as a kid, and grew even taller. With her, I always had to bend down to talk. But with Jaxon, she looked up, her gaze fixed on him. That's how she acts with someone she truly cares about. I took a deep breath. I told myself to have some self-respect. Whatever she did was none of my business. One more stupid thought like that, and I'd slap myself. But there seemed to be only one path to the boarding gate. I could only follow distantly behind them. Finally, mercifully, we reached the gate, where the path split. Chloe seemed to get distracted. She tried calling several times, but nothing seemed to connect. She kept fiddling with her phone, her brow furrowed. Finally, she borrowed a friend's phone, her face darkening, and headed toward the restrooms. A moment later, my phone suddenly rang. It was an unfamiliar number. Liam, you're really digging in your heels this time, aren't you? So I have to be the one to reach out. And you blocked me? If you're so tough, then just keep ignoring me. But when you get to university in Washington, D.C., all alone in a new city, let's see who's there to take care of you then. Chloe's voice was sharp, a rapid-fire torrent of accusations. I didn't say anything. There was no way to respond to that. But Chloe seemed to get even angrier. I don't have time for this. Just add me back on Snapchat now. I'm going out of the country with some friends for a few days, so my phone might be off. Don't go getting all dramatic and worried, okay? I couldn't be bothered to offer a single word. I hung up immediately and turned off my phone. I watched from a distance as Chloe, her face still stormy, returned to her spot. She huffily grabbed Jackson's hand, didn't hesitate, and walked directly towards the left boarding gate. I sighed and turned to walk towards the right. The flight to Mexico was turbulent, but for the first time in a week, I slept. When I woke up, the plane was descending through a thick layer of clouds, the arid, sun-baked landscape of Baja California spreading out below like a rusted canvas. As the landing gear engaged with a heavy mechanical clunk, I felt a strange, terrifying weightlessness in my chest. I had done it. I was out. Aunt Sarah lived in a small coastal town 2 hours' drive from the airport. She was my dad's older sister, a pragmatic, chain-smoking woman who had moved south a decade ago to run a boutique hotel and escape the suburban rat race. When she picked me up in her battered Jeep, she took one look at my hollow eyes, my pale face, and the rigid way I held my shoulders. She didn't ask about Chloe. She just tossed my duffel bag into the back and said, "You look like a stray dog that's been kicked too many times. We're putting you to work." And she did. For the next 2.5 months, I didn't touch my laptop. I barely looked at my new burner phone, except to occasionally text my parents that I was alive. My days were consumed by exhausting, mindless, beautiful labor. I helped the local crew replace the terracotta tiles on the hotel's roof. I sanded down the hulls of small fishing boats under the brutal, unforgiving Mexican sun. I hauled crates of supplies, mixed cement, and learned how to surf from a guy named Mateo who spoke no English, but laughed every time the waves slammed me into the sand. The physical exhaustion was my salvation. It left no room for the ghosts. During the first 2 weeks, the muscle memory of my past life still haunted me. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, my hand instinctively reaching for my phone to check if Chloe had texted, a phantom spike of anxiety hitting my chest when I realized I didn't know where she was or who she was with. Sometimes, while staring out at the Pacific, the intrusive thoughts would hit me like a physical blow. The memory of her skin against mine. The mocking laughter in the classroom. I just used Liam to practice my moves. The image of Jaxon hovering over her on that couch. When those moments happened, I'd grab a surfboard or a pair of running shoes and push my body until my lungs burned, and my muscles screamed louder than my thoughts. By July, things began to change. I stopped checking my empty pockets for a phone. The brutal sun had baked my skin to a deep bronze, and the relentless physical labor had packed solid, dense muscle onto my previously lean frame. I was eating 3 massive meals a day, sleeping 9 hours a night, and my shoulders had broadened, shedding that perpetual, hunched posture of a guy who was always waiting for someone else's permission to speak. Ryan called me on a sticky evening in late July. I was sitting on Aunt Sarah's porch, drinking an ice-cold Topo Chico. "Liam. Holy shit, man, you're impossible to reach." Ryan's voice crackled through the speaker. "Listen, I gotta tell you something. It's about her." I took a sip of the sparkling water. "I don't want to hear it, Ree." "No, you really do," Ryan insisted, a vindictive edge to his voice. "She got back from New Zealand a few weeks ago. Apparently, the trip was a disaster. Jaxon got super drunk at some lodge and ended up hooking up with a girl from a different school who was staying there. Chloe caught them." I stared out at the ocean. I waited for the familiar twist in my gut, the urge to rush to her side, to be the shoulder she cried on, to fix it for her. I waited to feel the sick, twisted joy of a rival failing. But nothing came. Just a vast, empty indifference. "Okay," I said quietly. "Okay, that's it." Ryan sounded disappointed. "Liam, she was crying in her driveway. My mom saw her. She's been asking my mom if she knows where you went, because your parents aren't telling her anything. She's looking for her safety net, man." "The net is gone," I said, my voice steady. "I'll see you in Chicago in a month, Ryan. Send me the dorm details." I hung up. I watched the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky in violent shades of bruised purple and burning orange. I realized, with a profound sense of peace, that I didn't care that Jaxon had cheated on her. She had chosen a guy based on his aesthetic and his status, treating intimacy like a game. She got the prize she played for. It had nothing to do with me anymore. Chicago in late August was a chaotic symphony of wind, traffic, and towering steel. Moving into the dorms at the university was a blur of heavy boxes and crowded elevators. Ryan and I had managed to get a double suite. When Ryan finally saw me in person, he dropped a box of textbooks on his foot. "What the hell happened to you?" he gaped, ignoring the pain. "You look like you ate the old Liam." I laughed, tossing him a water bottle. "Roofing and surfing. Turns out I actually like it." College was a blank slate, and I threw myself into it with a hunger I never knew I possessed. In high school, my entire identity was orbiting Chloe. My schedule, my electives, even my weekend plans were dictated by her whims. Here, I was anonymous. I was just Liam. I declared a major in economics, a subject I actually found fascinating, rather than the pre-med track Chloe had convinced me to follow so we could study together. I joined a boxing gym a few blocks off campus, channeling whatever lingering aggression I had into heavy bags and sparring sessions. I made new friends, guys who didn't know me as the pathetic, love-struck neighbor, but as the quiet, sharp-wit guy with a heavy right hook. Then came the first week of September. The week classes started at Washington, D.C. I was in the library, halfway through a macroeconomics reading, when my phone vibrated. It was a text from a number I had memorized but hadn't saved. "Liam, where are you?" "I'm at the D.C. campus. I went to the dorm you were supposed to be in. The RA said there's no Liam Thompson registered. This isn't funny anymore. Call me." I stared at the glowing screen. For a split second, I could perfectly picture her face, the furrowed brow, the pout that usually got her whatever she wanted, the rising panic when she realized her reality was fracturing. Before I could even process it, another text came through. "My mom said you went to Chicago? Tell me that's a lie. Tell me you didn't actually abandon me over a stupid party game. You promised we were going to do this together. Liam, I need help unpacking. I don't know anyone here. I need you." 3 words that would have had me booking a flight a year ago. 3 words that used to be my holy grail. I felt my jaw clench. The sheer audacity of it. After treating me like a disposable practice dummy, after parading Jaxon around, she genuinely expected me to be sitting in a dorm room 600 miles away, just waiting for her to snap her fingers because she had a bad summer and couldn't figure out how to hang her own posters. I didn't block the number this time. I didn't want her to think she had the power to make me run and hide. I simply swiped the notification away, locked my phone, and went back to reading about supply and demand. Autumn swept through Chicago, turning the trees along Lake Michigan into blazing torches of red and gold before the brutal cold stripped them bare. By November, my life had settled into a rhythm. And then I met Clara. It happened in a crowded off-campus coffee shop. I was trying to balance my laptop, a textbook, and a scalding Americano when someone bumped into my chair. The coffee sloshed over the rim, completely soaking my notebook. "Oh shit. I am so sorry," a voice said. I looked up, ready to be annoyed. Standing there was a girl with dark, shoulder-length hair tucked into a thick olive-green beanie. She wore an oversized vintage leather jacket and had a smudge of charcoal on her left cheek. She didn't look flustered, just genuinely apologetic as she handed me a stack of napkins. "It's fine," I said, dabbing at the soaked pages. I think the ink was already dry. Mostly. "I'm Clara," she said, sitting down in the empty chair across from me without asking. "Architecture major. Running on 3 hours of sleep and an unhealthy amount of spite. Let me buy you a new coffee. It's the least I can do for almost destroying your economics notes." She squinted at the ruined page. "Gross. You actually enjoy that?" I couldn't help but smile. "Liam. And yes, surprisingly, I do." Clara was different from anyone I had ever known. She was blunt, fiercely independent, and incredibly observant. There were no games with her. If she liked something, she said it. If she was annoyed, she told you. We started studying together. Coffee turned into dinners at cheap noodle joints, which turned into late-night walks along the freezing waterfront. With Clara, there was no anxiety. I never had to wonder where I stood. I never felt like I was walking on eggshells or auditioning for a role I was destined to lose. One night in December, we were sitting on the floor of my dorm, eating takeout. Ryan was out at a frat party. Clara was sketching a building for her finals, and I was just watching her. "You're staring, Thompson," she said, not looking up from her sketchbook. "Just admiring the view," I said easily. She finally looked up, a slow smile spreading across her face. She set her pencil down, leaned over the coffee table, and kissed me. It wasn't frantic or performative. It was warm, certain, and grounding. When she pulled back, she rested her forehead against mine. "You're a good guy, Liam," she murmured. I closed my eyes, breathing in the scent of her, old paper, vanilla, and the crisp winter air. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Winter break approached. I told my parents I wasn't coming back to our hometown for Christmas. I claimed I had landed a short winter internship at a local accounting firm, which was half true. I had applied for one, but the real reason was that I had zero desire to go back to the street where the ghost of my past still lingered. I ended up renting an Airbnb in the city with Ryan and 2 other guys, and Clara stayed in town too. It was New Year's Eve when the past finally caught up with me. We were at a crowded, dimly lit bar in Wicker Park. The air was thick with the smell of spilled beer, winter coats, and loud music. Clara was at the bar getting our drinks, and Ryan was arguing with the bouncer about something trivial. I was standing near a booth, checking the time on my phone, 11:15 p.m., when I felt a hand grab my bicep. The grip was tight, almost desperate. I turned around, the annoyance already forming on my face, and froze. It was Chloe. For a second, my brain short-circuited. She looked wildly out of place. She was wearing a thin, expensive silk dress that was completely inappropriate for the Chicago winter, her teeth chattering beneath a faux fur coat. Her blonde hair, usually perfectly styled, looked a bit messy. But it was her eyes that shocked me. They were red-rimmed, carrying a manic, exhausted energy. "Liam," she breathed, her voice cracking over the loud bass of the music. "I found you. Here." I didn't feel the old electric shock. I didn't feel my heart race. I just felt a profound, heavy exhaustion. "Chloe, what are you doing here?" I asked, my voice flat, devoid of any warmth. She flinched at my tone but quickly recovered, stepping closer, trying to invade my personal space like she used to. "I flew in this morning. I've been checking every bar near your campus. Ryan's stupid friend posted a Snapchat of this place and I saw you in the background. Liam, we need to talk. Please." "There is absolutely nothing for us to talk about," I said, taking a deliberate step back to break her proximity. "You need to leave." "No," she snapped, a flash of the old, entitled Chloe surfacing. People around us briefly turned their heads, then ignored us. "You don't get to just disappear. You don't get to cut me out like I mean nothing to you. 10 years, Liam. We were best friends for 10 years, and you threw it all away because of a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" I let out a dry, humorless laugh. The sheer delusion of it was staggering. "Is that what you call it?" Because from where I was standing in the bathroom stall, it sounded a lot like you telling your friends I was just a warm-up dummy, so you wouldn't embarrass yourself in front of a hockey player. Her face went completely white. The color drained from her cheeks so fast I thought she might faint. Her mouth opened, closed, and opened again. You heard that?" She whispered, her voice trembling. "Every word," I said, my gaze locked onto hers, cold and unyielding. "I heard you laugh about it. I watched you make out with him hours later while I was sitting at home, thinking I had actually meant something to you. So don't stand here and play the victim, Chloe. You didn't lose your best friend. You threw away a toy you got bored of, and now you're just mad the toy walked away." "Liam, no please," she stammered, tears spilling over her mascara, carving black rivers down her cheeks. The arrogance was completely shattered now. She reached out, desperately grabbing my hands. Her fingers were freezing. I was stupid. I was so insecure. I just wanted them to think I was cool. I swear to God, Liam, that night, what we did, it meant something to me. Jaxon was awful. He treated me like garbage. He cheated on me, he ignored me. He made me feel so small. She was sobbing now, the kind of ugly, gasping cries that would have broken my heart a year ago. "I've been miserable in DC, she choked out. "I sit in my dorm room alone. I don't have anyone. I miss you so much it physically hurts. I miss how you looked at me. I miss how safe I felt. Please, Liam. I'll do anything. I'll transfer here. We can start over. Just give me one more chance." I looked down at her hands gripping mine. I remembered how those same hands had playfully tossed a book at a classmate when they mocked my body. I remembered how those hands had gripped Jackson's shirt. I gently, but firmly, pried her fingers off my hands. "I'm sorry you had a bad time, Chloe," I said, and to my own surprise I meant it. I wasn't angry anymore. The fury had burned itself out in the Mexican sun, and faded away in the Chicago snow. "But you're not missing me. You're missing how I made you feel about yourself. You miss having someone worship you." "That's not true," she cried, shaking her head frantically. "It is," I said softly. "You wanted to be treated like you were the center of the universe. And I did that for you. But I'm not that guy anymore. I don't want to be your safety net. I don't want to be your backup plan." "You're not," she pleaded, taking a step toward me. I corrected her. "And it almost destroyed me. But I rebuilt myself. And there's no room for you in this new life, Chloe." Before she could say anything else, a hand slid smoothly around my waist. I turned my head. Clara was standing there, holding 2-pint glasses of stout. She took one look at Chloe, the tears, the desperate posture, the ruined makeup, and then looked at me, her dark eyes calm and assessing. "Everything okay here, Liam?" Clara asked, her voice steady and completely unbothered. Chloe stared at Clara. She took in Clara's effortlessly cool aesthetic, the casual intimacy of her hand on my waist, the way I subtly leaned into her touch. I watched the exact moment Chloe's reality entirely fractured. The realization hit her like a physical blow. I wasn't waiting in the wings. I wasn't broken. I belonged to someone else. I belonged to myself. Yeah, I said, looking at Clara and offering a genuine smile. Everything is perfectly fine. We were just finishing up. I turned back to Chloe one last time. She looked so incredibly small, shivering in her expensive dress, drowning in a sea of strangers. Go home, Chloe, I said quietly. Happy New Year. I didn't wait for a response. I took Clara's hand, and we walked away, melting back into the crowded bar. I didn't look over my shoulder. I didn't wonder if she made it safely to a cab, or if she was still crying. That wasn't my job anymore. When midnight struck, the bar erupted into a deafening roar of cheers and clinking glasses. Confetti rained down from the ceiling. Clara turned to me, her eyes sparkling in the dim light. Old ghost, she asked softly over the noise. Something like that. I replied. But she's gone now. Clara smiled, looping her arms around my neck. Good. Because I kind of like having you all to myself. I pulled her close, kissing her deeply as the crowd around us celebrated the new year. My chest felt entirely light, the last invisible chain shattering into dust. The cold wind howled outside the frosted windows of the bar, but inside, I was warm. I was free. And for the first time in my life, the future was entirely mine to write.